The invasion of France by Germany's army led by Hitler. There were several months of nervous speculation from France about being attacked by Germany. However, Britain and France had declared war on Germany on September 1939 after Hitler's attack on Poland. This was known as the Phony War. This came to be a very abrupt end when Germany launched an invasion of France and the Low Countries on May 10, 1940. Germany's main goal was to destroy Paris. The German military attacked air bases in France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. This attack destroyed a large amount of Allied planes that were on the ground. This crippled the Allies' air defense tremendously. For the first few days of the attack, Germany made very slow progress than expected toward Brussels. On May 14th, German Air Force, known as Luftwaffe, released a massive bombing attack on central France, even though there were negotiations taking place on behalf of the Netherlands. However, the Germans claimed they tried to call off the air attack, but only some of the pilots got the message. Over 800 civilians were killed in the air attack. With that amount of civilians being killed, the air attack forced the Netherlands to surrender on May 14th. The French and British planned to defend Belgium by making a stand line of forts between Antwerp and Liege. However, they were unaware that these cities had already been occupied by the Germans, so the French and British armies found themselves under an unforeseen attack. As the next few days went on, the Allied armies were trapped between two German forces. The Allies weren't able to protect Paris or to prevent the Germans from advancing to the English Channel. The German troops then began to move south, which divided the French and British forces. This divided the Allied powers, which weakened the Allies tremendously, and the attempt to defend Belgium was a complete disaster. The majority of the French army was divided and trapped between the two German armies. The British Expeditionary Force, known as the BEF, was being forced close to the sea, and they didn't feel comfortable with their backs being to the sea because there was a very slim hope that the French armies would be united. The BEF decided to order the evacuation known as the Operation Dynamo. This began on May 27, 1940. The evacuation took a little more than a week to complete because they had to move about 300,000 men by using military and civilian vessels. During the evacuation, they were under attack from the German Air Force. This was a very heroic evacuation. But this evacuation left France to defend themselves. Now that Germany has succeeded in weakening the French army, the German army planned an attack codenamed Case Yellow. This attack planned to push through the Ardennes forest, which would bypass the strong French frontier defense at the Maginot Line. Now, with the British being out of the way, Germany began its final advancement against France. On June 12th, German tanks had broken through the main defense line at the Somme River and the Maginot Line, moving much closer to the ultimate goal of Paris. Britain had tried very hard to tell France to resist at all costs. They denied any military help to France because Britain wanted to save their defense tactics for future use. France failed at trying to hold back the Nazis, and the German Blitzkrieg trampled into France. A lot of civilians had left France before they got invaded. They began to travel south in cars, wagons, bicycles, or just on foot. The refugees took very little items with them. However, it didn't take very long for the roads to become impassable because the Germans were patrolling the roads. Just 4 days into the German invasion of France, Allies began to launch counterattacks by air and land. Of course, these attacks failed with tremendous losses. The British army that was stationed at the Maginot Line when the fighting began were forced to surrender at St. Valery. Around 4,000 British refugees that were on the ships died because the ships were sunk by the Germans. On June 5th, the French resistance finally had been destroyed and collapsed, but not without heavy fighting. On June 10th, Italy entered the war on Germany's side. 4 days after Italy joined the war, on the German side, the French capital fell. By now, the French army had been reduced by more than half. They were forced to an inevitable surrender on June 22nd, 1940. This surrender by France brought on the ultimate humiliation came when Hitler forced the French to sign the armistice in the railroad car where Germans signed the armistice to end World War I. Under the armistice, France was divided into two sections. Occupied France was under direct control of Germany, and Vichy France, an independent territory. Hitler made a trip to Paris, France, after he conquered it to take a picture in front of the famous Eiffel Tower. This was the ultimate sign of victory for Hitler over France. Many have attributed Germany's rapid defeat of France to a simple weakness of France's armed forces, but that isn't correct. France actually had one of the strongest armies in Europe. The reason why France was defeated was because of mistaken assumptions about how and where the German attack would be carried out. France didn't expect Germany to advance through the Ardennes forest. Although France had received word that Germany was planning on going through the forest, France didn't think the German tanks could make it through the dense forest, so most of the French forces had reinforced by the British were sent into Belgium, where the main attack was incorrectly expected to take place.